On the first morning, Sophia woke before her alarm. The world outside her window lay in soft blue light, undisturbed by notification pings or the quick scroll of her thumb. For the first time in years, her phone screen was dark. The familiar icons, the ones she instinctively sought after opening her eyes, were hidden away, replaced by nothing but a blank expanse. The urge to check what she might have missed buzzed at her fingertips, but she remembered. This was her 7-day challenge. No social media, no mindless browsing, no distractions. The decision had felt daring, even radical, in the frantic context of college life. Sophia had watched hours leak from her days as fingers twitched toward her phone between study sessions, in the library, even while walking to class. Friendships, deadlines, even meals, everything felt punctuated by brief tides of digital escape. But more and more, those escapes became a cage she carried everywhere. Now, lying in the subtle hush of the early morning, Sophia felt both excited and slightly afraid. What would she do with the time? Who would she become when she reclaimed those stolen moments? On her desk, a new companion waited, a modest, spiral-bound planner, its pages untouched. After a breakfast eaten without flickering screens for company, Sophia sat down, pen in hand. She began by listing the essentials: lectures, readings, assignments due that week. Instead of cramming everything together, she divided each day into blocks. Study periods for each class. Breaks filled not with scrolling, but with movement, snacks, fresh air. Suddenly, the thrum of anxiety in her chest eased, replaced by something steadier. A sense of order, a framework she could trust. The first challenge came quickly. Walking to her first class, she resisted the habit to check notifications at every red light. Instead, she looked up and around. She noticed how sunlight played on the benches beneath chestnut trees, how laughter spilled from a group near the cafe. Even the distant shout of a skateboarder racing down the path registered as new. Each sight and sound felt more solid, more real than the chaotic flood of status updates. When classmates clustered together before lecture, phones aloft, Sophia hesitated. Would she miss out? Would conversations slip by without her? The Instagram moment unshared, the inside joke unseen. But when someone spoke to her, her eyes met theirs, undistracted, present. The conversation deepened. She listened, responded, and was surprised at how much more she remembered afterward. With each real-time exchange, new bonds formed, built not on the exchange of memes, but on genuine smiles and shared words. Back in her dorm, during a scheduled study block, focus came with surprising ease. The urge to just check her accounts lingered, but as she pushed through, a wave of accomplishment followed. She finished readings more quickly than before. A lingering essay, once daunting, became a series of manageable sections. She checked off each task in her planner, and each checkmark carried a small thrill, a visible measure of progress, a quiet proof of her effort. The days unfolded in a rhythm both challenging and gentle. On the third day, fatigue set in. There were moments when she felt out of touch. Friends talked about a viral video, a trending challenge, and Sophia had no frame of reference. Laughter bubbled up around her, and for a moment, she felt alone. Self-doubt crept in. Was she missing the pulse of college life? Was her solitude worth it? But as the evening deepened, she picked up a book she had meant to read for weeks. An hour passed, then another, undisturbed by the flicker of her phone. When she finally closed the cover, she realized she felt rested, filled even. She made a note in her planner's margin. Time for myself matters. By the fourth day, the experiment shifted into something more intentional. Sophia used her planner not just for tasks, but for hopes and ideas. She blocked an hour for creativity and pulled out her neglected sketchbook. Lines and colors flowed under her pencil. For the first time, she remembered how art, like life, thrived in unbroken stretches of attention. Conversations deepened too. Without the digital lure at mealtimes, she lingered over lunch with friends, listening and sharing rather than scrolling. She noticed how easy it was to underestimate the power of sustained, face-to-face connection, the way it built trust and presence. She became curious about others, and they, in turn, drew closer to her genuine engagement. Halfway through the week, Sophia confronted old habits. There were slips, moments when her hand reached reflexively for her phone, moments when boredom threatened. She acknowledged them without judgment. Instead of retreating into guilt, she made new plans for those tricky moments. A short walk, a few stretches, a call to her grandmother. She learned to recognize not only her triggers, but the emotions beneath them: anxiety, fatigue, restlessness. Gradually, she realized that by managing her time, she was also caring for herself. On the 6th day, Sophia marveled at the cumulative change. Her room was cleaner, her notes more organized. That looming sense of being behind everything, which had so often sent her scrolling for comfort, began to lift. She saw herself as capable, resilient, and creative. And perhaps most surprisingly, she no longer thought of rest as wasted time, but as a necessary gift. By the 7th morning, Sophia woke with anticipation rather than dread. The fear of missing out was no longer sharp. Instead, she recognized what she'd gained: a clearer mind, fresher senses, relationships rooted in present-moment joy. She had not escaped her life, but reclaimed it, day by day, hour by hour. As she opened her planner for a final review, Sophia saw the difference. Her self-worth was now measured not by digital applause or fleeting validation, but by achievements and moments she could see and feel. Each small choice, the plan to focus, to engage, had translated into a life less rushed and more meaningful. Returning to social media, eventually, would be a choice, not a compulsion. Armed with awareness and the structure she had built, Sophia knew she would never return to the distractions of before. Her 7-day challenge had been about removing temptations, but it had ended in something unexpected. Discovering her own ability to create time for what mattered, and in that time, seeing herself transformed. Worthy, capable, whole.